Hello and welcome to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg. We are living in crazy times right now, and because of that, I wanted to do something a little bit different. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the news. Coronavirus is spreading across the country and the world, and this started last week when Totally Pretentious asked a question on Twitter because he now has to work from home and is not used to that, so he needed some tips. And then because I work from home, I started getting text messages after that. One of my sisters reached out to me to ask for tips on working from home, and then three other people over the weekend texted me to ask. So I figured, since this seems to be a topic of conversation that has people worried, I would just kind of offer tips for getting used to working from home since I've been doing it for 3 years. Technically, I've been doing it for longer than that because my last year with a radio company that I was working for, I mostly worked from home, but I still did go into an office fairly frequently. So basically, I've been kind of doing this for 4 years. Here's what I have found that helps. Now, if you're only working from home because of COVID-19 or coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, odds are this is a temporary situation for you, so you might not need long-term solutions. But I can tell you what I have found to be the most helpful is having a routine. It's not only good for you, but if you have pets, it is practically essential. Like I have two dogs, as you probably know if you have followed any of my videos. And when I first started working from home, they constantly wanted my attention, but over time they started understanding the routine. Like we get up, we go outside, they eat breakfast, and then daddy needs to sit down and do some work. So they go back to sleep, and then they know around 1 o'clock, I will take them outside because that's when I usually get lunch, and then they'll come back in and sleep, and then by the end of the day, they're ready for playtime, but they know that they need to wait for it. So having a routine keeps me from going insane trying to manage the dogs all day. But it's also really good for my own mental well-being. If you struggle with the idea of working from home, like getting into that routine, because you're not used to working from home, it really helps. And I would say part of this is I get up in the morning and get ready as if I'm going into the office every day. I mean, obviously, like a casual office doesn't have to be fancy, but I get up, take the dogs out, have breakfast, feed them, and then shower and get dressed as if I need to leave for an office. And that really helps me get in the frame of mind like I'm going to work. And then even if I just sit down, my mind is now ready to go for work. So it's really good for that. And actually the getting dressed part works on another level, because when I first started working from home, there's a really seductive aspect of it where you start to think, well, I can just roll out of bed 5 minutes before I'm supposed to be at work, sit down at the computer, and I'll never even have to get out of my pajamas. That is really seductive, but it is also really not good for you. At least it was for me. So what I found was, if you've ever watched Queer Eye or any of those makeover shows, they will tell you that taking care of yourself, like self-care, getting dressed and feeling good about yourself, helps you with your confidence, but it also helps your mental well-being, because if you feel good about yourself, you feel good about all aspects of your life. And what I found was, after about 6 months working from home, basically staying in my pajamas all day, I was depressed. And my husband would come home and say, hey, why don't we run into town and do this? And I'd be like, nah, I really don't want to get out of the house right now. So I wasn't even going places at all. And you can start to spiral if it's like that. So you need to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. And I think having that time to like get dressed and all of that is really important, because otherwise you can fall into some really bad habits, and you can start, self-care is really important. And I think it's a good part of that. For me, it helps a lot. It's an essential part of the routine for me, because getting up, having that routine, I'm not a morning person, so having that really gets me in the frame of mind for work. If you need like a stricter routine, you can schedule parts of the day and do things like that. For me, just having that basic structure of like get up, get ready, go to work, is essential. Now, the flip side of having a routine like that is that, so it can be hard to fall into a routine where you work from home because you're not used to working from home and there are lots of distractions. But on the other hand, having access to work from home can lead to the complete opposite, where you just basically don't stop. So having a routine also puts stops in place, so you're not just working all the time. And that is really important as well, because it's really tempting to be like just on your email all the time, or do whatever your work is. For me, it's usually email. even late into the night. But having a routine helps me have a set ending to the day. Like I usually work until about 6 o'clock my time because most of the people I work with are on California time, and that's about 5 o'clock for them. So usually around that time, my husband has gotten home, my son is home, and we're getting ready to start thinking about dinner. So it's like a natural point for me to say, okay, I need to leave work for now. And if there's something important, I can circle back to it. But it creates separations. And the other thing to remember, so the dogs are great because it forces me to acknowledge like I need to take a lunch in the middle of the day because I need to take care of them. And remember, if you were in an office, odds are you would be stopping to chat with some coworkers and things like that. So make sure you build little breaks. I usually sit here. I have my books handy at all times. I'm reading 2 books at once right now, but I have my books handy at all times. So if I have like 10 minutes here, 5 minutes here throughout the day, I just take a quick little break. It helps me not feel like I'm constantly working because that can be mentally exhausting as well. You need to have those little breaks, which leads to my second big tip. So the first one is routine. The second one is stay in touch with people because you can feel very isolated and separated from the world. I have 2 friends that I am very consistently in touch with by text message. I'm texting them pretty much all day long. And I have my texts on my laptop, so I can just keep working, and it's not even that much of a distraction because I just flip tabs and I'm in touch with them. My family also has a running text thread that goes pretty much at all times and never stops. For the past couple of days, there's been a Voxer group that has been talking a lot, and these things are really essential for your mental health because I don't feel separated from the world at all. And it probably helps that I talk to my dogs as if they're people. So I never feel disconnected from the world. I never feel like I'm alone in the house at all times. And you really need to make sure you keep those connections going because I know a lot of people get frustrated because they feel totally isolated from the world. And you find ways to be in touch with people that will make sense. In this day of social media, it's not too hard to achieve, and find the ways that work for you. Obviously, if you're working from home because of coronavirus, you can't really work out of a cafe or anything like that. If this is going to be a longer term thing for you, you can certainly explore options like that because it can be really good just to be around people. For me, it doesn't work because I spend most of my day on and off the phone. And if I'm in a cafe, there are too many distractions around for phone calls. If your job involves more like email or projects on your laptop or writing, something like that, absolutely, by all means, go to a cafe once it's safe to go to a cafe if this is a longer term thing for you. It just doesn't not work great for me. The other thing is, if you're really having a hard time kickstarting having a cafe or like friends that you can meet with, once it's safe to do that, can be really good for accountability. Like I used to work when I was in college, I would meet a friend in a coffee shop to study. And because I was around people, I was more motivated than I would have been in my own apartment to actually stay on task and get the work done. And as a bonus, I ended up meeting my husband in that coffee shop where I used to study, but that's neither here nor there. And then when that friend graduated, I ended up going to one of the libraries on campus at my college because I knew that library in particular was very quiet. Everybody was really serious. So if I went there, I felt like I was screwing things up for everybody if I was messing around. So if you need something like that, once it's safe, by all means do it. But until then, I think having a routine is going to be essential for that. There are apps that you can use. I'm not familiar with them, but there are ways you can do it. You can certainly schedule your time a little bit more strictly, just so you get that part down. But yeah, so have a routine and stay in touch with people. The third big tip I have is to stay active because it's easy not to think about this, but when you work from home, you're sedentary a lot of the time. For instance, I'm sitting on a couch right now. A lot of the time that when taking the dogs out at lunch is as much exercise as I get during the day. And if you were in an office, odds are you'd be walking around, moving around, talking to people, having meetings and things like that. So it doesn't sound like it should be a lot, but let me tell you something. In the first year that I worked from home, I started gaining weight. In the 3 years I've worked from home, I've consistently gained weight. And the first year I worked from home, by the end of it, my hips started getting stiff, and it's because I tend to sit on the couch and not move from there. And the couches are obviously less forgiving and have less lumbar support and things like that than, say, desks or chairs. So if you have an office or like a table that you want to use, obviously I could work at this table behind me, but I've found for me with the dogs, I really prefer sitting on the couch with like a laptop on a lap desk. It just makes my day easier. But because I'm doing that, I have to get up and I have to move. And it's really important for me. If I have time in the morning, take the dogs for a walk. Absolutely, after dinner, take them for a walk, play with them, and be active. If you have a gym membership, obviously this is not the time for it, but if this is a more long-term thing for you, incorporate the gym into your routine, because you need to make sure you're taking care of yourself again. And things like that are good for stress relief anyway. In the meantime, if you can't go to the gym because of the current situation in the world, find ways to just stay active, keep yourself moving. It's good for your mind, but it's really good for your body, and it's easy to forget that part if you're working from home. But just take care of yourself. Like I said, walking the dogs is great for me. I know a lot of people have been looking into like meditation and routines that you can do from home for that. So seek them out and use them, absolutely. And keep in mind, these are things that have helped me work from home. It's not necessarily, you know you better than I know you, so feel free to do you. If there are other tips that work well for you, drop them in the comments down below, and feel free to recommend other things. Maybe some of this advice is something that you can adapt for yourself, like maybe twist it to a way that will work for you, and hopefully it will help. But like I said, if you have other advice, leave it in the comments down below. If you have questions about routine or anything like that, drop it in the comments down below. My life is basically an open book, and this is what works for me. Just having the routine, the separation. For me, working on the couch works really well because I can be right here hanging out with my dog, and I like it. Like I honestly, if I had to go back to working in an office, it would be difficult for me because I'm used to this, and I like this. But anyway, like I said, I would love to hear what works for you. If you have also been working from home, and if you have questions, let me know. And I hope you're staying safe wherever you are. Social distancing, again, very important. I know you've probably heard a lot about it, but please take it seriously. And I hope you're staying healthy, that things are okay where you are. You have plenty of toilet paper, because I know that's running scarce in a lot of areas. And we will get through this. Until then, thank you for your time watching this video. It's not exactly book-centric, but I hope it was helpful. And I will be back until next time, when I will be talking more about books. Happy reading.